Welcome to the Metal Bob Live podcast. I am your host, Metal Bob. Today's show is brought to you by Legend Picks and also artist Jeremiah Kalleck. Links to our sponsors will be posted on our page at the end of each episode. On today's show, episode 3, I had the honor of speaking with bassist Greg Chaisson, ex-Badlands, Red Dragon Cartel, and his latest band, Kings of Dust. We spoke about the debut release from Kings of Dust, which is out March 13th. So sit back, have a listen, and enjoy the show. Thank you. And how you doing?
Good, how you doing?
Good. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me for a little bit this morning.
No worries. I got about 50 minutes to spare here before I have to open my store at 12.
All right. Well, I guess my first question is, buddy, I'd really just like to know how you're doing.
You mean physically or just in general?
Both. I mean, I know you've had some issues, and I just wanted to see how you were doing.
I'm cancer-free, doing pretty well with that. And other than the regular stress of life, running a store, being in a band and doing all that sort of stuff, life is pretty easy, pretty good.
That's great, man. It's good to hear, buddy. So, yeah, I just got done listening to the Kings of Dust. I've listened to it a few times. That Like an Ocean song is just freaking killer, man. Is there a release date for that yet?
The official release date worldwide is March 13th.
Nice. All right. Looking forward.
And that'll be on Shock Records, and it'll be distributed through Orchard, which is part of Sony. Okay, perfect. Yeah, looking forward to that, man. Some good stuff. That bass at the beginning of Like an Ocean, man. I'll tell you what, that stuff comes out of them speakers, man, just rattling the house, man. That was my plan.
Yeah, it did. It scared the shit out of my dog. I had it. I still ain't found him yet, but we'll get to that later. But so everything's going good, man. So yeah, I see that you own your own music store. How long have you had that music store down there in Arizona?
I don't own it. I run it. It's Bizarre Guitar and Drum in Phoenix. It's owned by a woman named Susan Alexander. She lives in North Carolina. So she basically lets me run it for her. She pays the bills and I do everything else. And the store has been in business since 1976. Her former husband owned it. He passed away. And she inherited it in October 2015 and brought me in to run it pretty shortly thereafter.
Okay.
And we've been doing good. Business is, considering you have to deal with the internet and, everything online and then Guitar Center and some of those kind of things, we hold our own. We more than hold our own.
Yeah, it's sad because, I mean, a lot, like stores like you run and some of them other stores, those were always my favorite stores to go to. Some of these big commercial chains, they just don't do it for me, man. They really don't.
Well, I understand if you live in an area and the only thing around is a big box. I get that. But, I mean, you could go in any big box, any chain store in the country. It's the exact same guitars. They order. Each store orders the exact same thing. The only thing that's different is that they happen to have anything interesting used. And if it's real interesting, they send it off to California anyway, so you never get to see it. So it's basically like, you go into Walgreens, they all look the same. They all have the exact same thing. They all have the exact same counters, the exact same displays. And that's the way the big box is. We're different. We're 6,000 square feet. We're independently owned. We order what we want. We try to do things a little bit differently, and I think that to a lot of our customers is very refreshing because they can come in here and see stuff that you're not going to see at every other store.
Right. Okay, thank you for that. I know we don't have a whole lot of time with you today, so I would really like to talk more about Kings of Dust. Can you give me a rundown of the members in the band?
Yeah, you have Michael Beck is the lead vocalist. Him and I started the band roughly 7 years ago, but it went through some transitions, different names, that sort of thing, different members. On guitar, we have Ryan McKay, brilliant guitar player from Quincy, Illinois. Lives here in Phoenix now. And then on drums from Virginia Beach, Virginia, Jimmy Taft, who's also been here for a number of years, and he and I have played in some bands together, and he's a great drummer. Him and I have a really good, we're in sync on a lot of stuff, and if you listen to the record, you can kind of obviously hear that. So I'm really happy with the guys that I'm playing with. They're as good as anyone I've ever played with, more or less, and you know, we all kind of interpret music the same way, so it works out real well.
Perfect. Yeah, I seen that he used to be. Now Beck played with you in Dragon Cartel, correct?
I was not in Red Dragon Cartel when he was there. I had left in April of 2015 to take care of my cancer treatment, and Beck was on one of the. When they were kind of going through a bunch of different singers, I call it the Jake E. Lee Cavalcade of singers. I think they had 6 or 7 guys come in and sing and just kind of see how it worked out. Till he kind of sorted out things with Darren, who is really the right guy for Red Dragon Cartel anyway. Great guy, great singer. Was my roommate when I was on the road with them. He's a hoot. But Beck, I think, was in the band with the band for a bit before they actually rehearsed and toured, and then so I think he got together and rehearsed for a few days and did I think all those singers did a couple of weeks. Obviously it didn't work out for him, but as I like to say, and he also likes to say, one door opens, another one closes. The thing for him in Red Dragon Cartel, Michael's a great singer, but when you're doing that gig as a singer, unless you've been on some of those records, you're kind of doing it as a cover singer, and you kind of have to stick to the script that's there as a vocalist. And I don't think that that's Michael's forte. If you listen to what we do in Kings of Dust, it's his own lyrics, his own melody line. It's all of our music, and I think his originality and how he approaches music really shines through better than it did in his short time with Red Dragon Cartel. So I think that I always tell him he's the worst cover singer I know, but that isn't so bad because I'm the worst cover bass player I know. I don't play anything by the rules either, and so I think that what we do in Kings is perfect for what he does.
Right. And I get it, man, because when you're playing your own material, it just means so much more to you anyway. Anybody can play a cover song. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. When I play in cover bands, I don't really follow what the script is for the song that I'm covering. And not only don't I follow it, there's a good chance I've never actually even sat down and tried to learn it. I just kind of, if I've heard it before, I just kind of make up my own stuff as I go along. And that's not a very good way to approach a cover project. But if I play cover songs the way that the original song is done, the original bass player, especially if it's some stuff from the 80s or whatever, I get bored easy. And then it's not that much fun. So I kind of take a lot of liberties with cover music, and I kind of do my own take on it. And some people like it, but, I've also heard and seen where people have said, yeah, he's not even playing the record right. Exactly. You're exactly right. I'm not playing the record right because I don't want to play it the way that the guy did it before me. So I would be the worst tribute bass player unless it was a Who tribute band. If it was a Who tribute band or a Cream tribute band, I could probably fit in. But anything else, I get offered to be in tribute bands all the time. You want to be in our AC/DC tribute band? Have you ever actually heard me play? I'm probably not the guy for your AC/DC tribute band.
I feel you, man. Oh, man. So you said March 13th is the release date for your new record?
March 13th is the release date. We're getting ready to shoot a video. Have you heard the whole record?
I've only heard a couple tracks.
There's a song on there called What's the Other? That will be the video. When we get done here, make sure you send me a PM, and I'll make sure you get one sent off to you.
I appreciate that.
So you can kind of hear exactly what it is that's on there. It's basically roughly almost 70 minutes of music, 13 songs. And why 13 songs? Well, why not? Exactly. We wrote a bunch of material. I couldn't decide what to leave off the record. One of the 13 songs is about a minute and a half intro song that Ryan McKay wrote. that kind of butts up to another song on the record called Mama. And then there's also about a 4-minute improv song called A Little Bit of Insanity that was recorded live. Everything on it is live. It's one take live, no overdubs, no nothing. So in reality, it's probably 11 regular songs. None of them are under 4 minutes long. They're long songs. You've heard Like an Ocean. It's got a lot of moving parts in it. So does every other song on the record. That's how I find music interesting that way. I'm not very much for a corporate structure as far as, okay, here's a verse, here's a chorus, here's another verse, here's a chorus, here's maybe a bridge, there's solo, we're going to solo over the chorus, and then we're going to chorus out. I would be as bored doing that as I would be in an AC/DC tribute band.
Right.
So when I write with no respect to whether it's going to be commercial or not. I don't give a thought to that. I only write what I like. I write what I hear in my head. My co-writers on there, Ryan, Michael, and Jimmy write the same way. There's some songs written on there as well with me and Mike Petruno, who was the original guitar player in the band before he had to leave. He had some issues he had to take care of. He left after the first year. But there's Like an Ocean is one of the songs that him and I wrote together, and there's a few other songs on there. The other one, Spirit, Keep the Spirit Alive, is another song that he and I wrote. He has the same concept of music I do. It's very 70s oriented, very 70s influenced. I wear my influences on my sleeve. You can probably hear a number of different things. I don't ever say what I think it is, because I've heard a lot. I've seen a lot of reviews and had a lot of comments, and people hear their own thing in there. Some people might hear Deep Purple, and some people might hear Judas Priest or Iron Maiden. None of them is an exact. I'm not trying to rip off anyone, but I do have a very varied background as far as what my influences are and what I like. Same with the guys that I write with. They like the same kind of stuff. They like the kind of adventurous thing that we do in Kings. And so we all kind of write the same way. And if people, it's being played on the radio. And so obviously it's resonating with someone. It's very hooky music. There's probably at least 2 or 3 musical hooks and then Beck's vocal hooks that go on there. So it's very hooky. It's just not short commercial pop stuff. It's kind of hooky. I always say it's 70s hard rock with a little something extra.
Right. Well, that's great, man. I'm looking forward to that. And I will send you the information to get me a copy of that. That'd be great. And I will definitely make sure I push that on all my shows, and I will put the links down and anything I can do to help that out.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll just say to your listeners that if you like 70s kind of pseudo-classic hard rock, and of all those great 70s hard rock bands with, guitar, with actual long guitar solos and musical segues and a lot of adventure musically, along with, a lot of different textures and colors and different rhythmic sort of things, you'll probably like, along with killer vocals, you'll probably like Kings of Dust.
Oh,
I think there's a real kind of a renaissance, if you will, of 70s bands discovering the 70s, doing kind of a 70s vibe, whether it's what one of my favorite bands, Rival Sons, does, or whether it's what Greta Van Fleet does, or Dirty Honey, and there's a number of bands like that. And so we fall right into that sort of thing, the same as those bands do. So if you find what they do to be interesting, you'll probably find what we in Kings of Dust do to be pretty interesting. The thing about us is I grew up in the 70s. I started playing music in 73. And so my influences are the same influences I had in the 70s. And the songs I wrote in the 70s had that same kind of vibe. And that's just the stuff I still like to listen to this day. When I was in Badlands, we had that same sort of thing. Jake was very 70s rooted. It made me fit in there perfectly because he wanted a 70s style bass player, and we didn't really care about commercial songs. We covered a lot of musical landscape when I was in Badlands. We weren't following any rules. We were kind of making up our own rules as we went along, and if people liked it, they bought it, and a lot of people did like it, and if they didn't like it, they would move on to something that suited their taste more, whether it be simpler or maybe something even more complicated. So Badlands wasn't for everybody, although I thought it should have been. And Kings of Dust might not be for everybody, but it definitely has that kind of music's having a resurgence. I think that it will resonate with a lot of people, and I think from what I've seen as far as reviews and comments and messages people have sent me, they're pretty blown away with what we have kind of delivered here. They're really blown away by the mix of it. That we mixed it very 70s. It's very wide. It doesn't have a real small scope as far as the sonic part of it. So I'm pretty enthusiastic about where I think that this is going to go, and people seem to like it, and if that's the kind of music you like, check it out.
Well, brother, I tell you, man, I listen to Like an Ocean, like I said this morning, again, for like the 100th time since I've got in contact with you, man. And like I said, just from the opening note just had me hooked right away, so I cannot wait to hear the rest of this record.
Well, I appreciate that, bro, and I think you will like it, and I think as you listen to the record more, people always tell me it's the kind of record that you can't listen to once. You listen to it, the more you listen to it, the more different things you hear. It's an unusual record in regards that you can hear everything. You can hear all the guitars perfectly. You can hear the bass, which is very unusual in today's music, where you can actually hear what the bass does. So since I'm the bass player and it's my band, you get to hear the bass. But it doesn't take away from anything else. It doesn't overshadow the guitars. You can still hear the drums. You can hear the kick drum. So that's part of what you get when you have a real wide mix, when you're using the 100% of sonic space that's available. We use the whole 100%. Most people use about 60. They use it like a 60-inch screen TV. I did this record like a 100-inch screen TV, and you can hear it all. So I think that when you hear this, you'll go, wow, that Like an Ocean is a great song, and we let off the record with it that way, just for that reason. But I think when you hear the rest of it, you'll go, holy crap, there's a lot going on here. And a lot of people tell me from the day they've got it, it's still in their CD player, and they're still digging it. Now, when it comes out on the 13th, it is just going to be on CD format. Our next step is to try to go to vinyl, because there's so much music on there. We actually have to make a double record, which is going to be kind of cool.
Okay.
And then at some point, I don't know when, it'll go to the other platforms, whether it's, downloadable or, iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, whatever. Eventually we'll get there. But right now we're just going to kind of keep it old school and do it this way. And plus, to be perfectly honest, I think once music goes to downloadable, you lose something in the sonic structure of it, and you don't hear things the way that it's originally meant to be heard. So when you're hearing it on the disc, or eventually hearing it on vinyl, I think you'll be hearing exactly what it is we were trying to say, what we are saying. I mean, it's not a perfect record, but no one ever makes a perfect record. But it is a very honest record, and it's where we were at the time, and I'm pretty proud of it. I like the guys I play with. They're all excellent musicians. Ryan and Jimmy are two of the best guitar player and drummers I've ever played with, and they're also great writers. So when I bring in material, the way that they interpret it, when all four of us are done with it, it's then a song. Ryan's also a great writer. We're actually writing stuff for the next record already as we get ready to rehearse to possibly do some live shows here in the very near future. So we got a lot on our plate. We got something to say, and I think that when we go out live, we'll say it. And I think when people, as people hear the record, I think they'll realize that it's a very relevant sort of musical form.
Awesome, brother. Well, I know you're busy today, man. I appreciate your time. Kings of Dust, March 13th. Looking forward to it. I'll get the info over to you, brother, man, and I hope maybe I can have you back on shortly after the release, and we can talk a little bit more.
I'll tell you what, once you hear the record the whole way, get a hold of me, and we'll do this again, and we can kind of run down whatever it is you want to run down. I've done some interviews where people have asked me about different songs. What were we thinking? What was I thinking when I did this, that, or the other thing? So at your leisure, feel free to get a hold of me again, and we can revisit this a little bit.
Well, Greg, it was great to have you on, man. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day for us.
Thanks, Bob. I appreciate it as well.
All right, you take care, buddy.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Well, that concludes episode 3 of the Metal Bob Live podcast. Please check our sponsor links and also subscribe to the podcast if you have not done so. As always, thanks for listening, and have a great night. Thank you.